Hi, who just joined?
Hey, Ben, it's Bernd.
Hey, Bernd. We're just getting started. Perfect timing.
All right.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Next Level Program Group Coaching call for today. As always, we have a pretty full agenda, so we'll work through that and just be prepared for lots of discussion. You all should, at this point, know that the more you participate, the better the call. We definitely don't want to listen to me droning on endlessly for an hour, so please jump in with your ideas, your thoughts, and we'll make this a great call. We'll get started today with program wins and challenges. So anybody that's on the line that in the past week or two has really had a significant win or is facing a challenge that they'd like some feedback or some ideas around, I will open the floor up at this point for that conversation.
Hey, this is Steve. I had a good win. Hey, I'm getting echo. I had an almost perfect discovery meeting on Tuesday. It ran 20 minutes almost on the dot. It almost was like perfect cadence, and I very quickly got an RFA out of it.
So, Steve, that's awesome to hear. What do you think was different about this discovery meeting than others that you've had in the past? What made it feel so perfect, so on time? What helped you with your cadence?
Well, for starters, the guy's personality type was much more to the point. He didn't tend to ramble, so it was easier to kind of keep things on track for me. And it was uncovering some pain. Was really, he was almost prepared with pain.
What's your disc profile?
Mine is I'm mostly I. Let me get the numbers. I'm 56D, 65I, 36S, and 55C.
I was just trying to check and see if it was because he was mirroring how you would think, or I guess it would be my view would be that he was liking what you were presenting.
Well, he was doing most of the talking, but it was just a lot easier to keep him on track. Much more to the point. I had a discovery meeting today where it was, I had a storyteller. So I asked him how long he's been in business, and that was a 10-minute explanation.
Yeah, so the prospect has a lot to do with the flow of the meeting, obviously, but just keep in mind that this is an opportunity for us to not only communicate the value of TAB, but we're demonstrating our ability as a coach, and we're also demonstrating our ability as a facilitator, right? We're managing the meeting, we're keeping people on track, we're uncovering pain, asking great questions. Even when you've got people who tend to ramble a little bit, start to think about what are some effective ways to keep them on point. If they answer really long, provide a really long response to a simple question like "How long have you been in business?" Then the next question I might ask would be, I do want to be respectful of our time, and so you provided a lot of background, and I really appreciate that. So with all of that in mind already, now let's ask the next question. And I think you can kind of set the stage that, we'll have time. You could even say we'll have time to dig deeper if we decide to go to to have a follow-up meeting. But for right now, I'm just trying to get an overview of your business. But again, just keep in mind that, your job in the discovery meeting is not just to communicate value, but it's to begin building that relationship and showing them that you are a high-quality coach and facilitator, and that you do pay attention to what's happening around you and the commitments that you've made. Good job, Steve. Congratulations on that. Please, as always, keep us posted, and hopefully you'll have a new member signing up with you very, very soon.
Thanks.
Any other
Did he move forward with an RFA?
Yeah, Steve said that he did.
Okay, I didn't hear that part. Thank you.
Yep. Any other wins or challenges that you'd like to share? Anybody?
I have a challenge, and I'm sure everybody's had this, where I had a prospective RFA on Wednesday that canceled at the last minute, then ... whatever the because is. Actually, his assistant called to cancel it, so that was helpful. Not. My first question is, well, the hell with you. I know I can't do that. But is it just get him back on the calendar as quickly as possible and just keep moving? Is that even if it's the fourth or fifth time that it's happened?
Great question, Mike. What do you all do if you've got somebody who sets meetings and cancels several times? How do you handle that? So nobody's ever had that happen to them, Mike. You're the first person to experience that.
Yeah, I had a couple people who early on did that. I showed up for an RFA and I was informed that they weren't there. Rescheduled with them, no problem. Called before I went to the second, found out he wasn't in the office. And then he kind of went dark. So I sent him the, after sending a few emails, I couldn't get a hold of him on the phone. I sent the, you're obviously busy. Maybe this isn't a good time for you. I'm not gonna waste a lot of your time. If it's all right with you, I'm just gonna go ahead and close your file. And with him, I got a response back. I had another person who did similar thing, blew off RFA twice, and then just went dark, and I got absolutely no response, no emails open, no return calls.
Yeah, I think the notifying them or providing after a couple of times, just letting them know, look, I don't want to waste your time. I don't have time to waste. I'm sorry we haven't been able to connect, but at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and close your file unless we can get something firm on the calendar.
I had another guy very recently. I met with him for a discovery meeting in November. He didn't want to do a second meeting yet, but he was interested in the diagnostics. So I had sent him the link, and he was going to talk to his partners about doing it as well. And didn't hear back. Called, left a few messages. Didn't really hear from him, so I finally sent just a very short message. Hey, I've been trying to reconnect. Haven't been able to. I don't want to be a pest. When we last talked, you were interested in doing this, but I haven't heard back from you. If you're still interested, let me know, and we'll get it going. Otherwise, I'll move on. And then the next day, I got an email from him that said, I'm sorry, I've been really busy and traveling a lot. We're still interested. I brought somebody else in who might be able to help with this.
Very good. Any other final thoughts on Mike's question about how to handle people who repeatedly cancel? Yeah, I think that's pretty good feedback from Steve so far, Mike. You have to kind of gauge that and figure out whether these are legitimate reasons that these meetings are being canceled, or if you feel like you're being put off. And that's really the driver behind how you move forward. If you feel like you're just being put off, it might be appropriate to withdraw your offer. If you feel like they're legitimate reasons, you just kind of have to gauge at what point are you going to withdraw your offer. We don't want to be sales guys, though. We don't want to be chasing people. That's not the impression we ever want to give.
Yeah, actually, that was the underlying component for me as well. But yeah, no, salient. I appreciate it. I think I just get past my own being butt sore about being canceled on. So we'll just go from there.
Good. Any other, just another minute or two, any other wins or challenges that somebody would like to share with the group? All right, let's move forward then. So we've been working through the 4 disciplines of engagement over the last several weeks, looking at each of those in more detail. Of course, the 4 disciplines to help with member retention are to be a great coach, to facilitate high-performing boards, to maximize the value of available tools, and finally, to become your member's trusted advisor. We have worked through all 3, the first 3 of those, and we're on the 4th one, so we're going to spend a little bit of time today just talking through what it means to be a member's trusted advisor. So, rather than me tell you, I would like to hear from you all. I'm sure you've all kind of felt yourself cross that line in the relationships that you have with your members at various times, from being a good coach or being somebody that they turn to or being somebody that's involved in their lives, and then becoming their trusted advisor. And so let's focus on actions or activities that you feel contributed to a member making that transition from just a business relationship to a trusted advisor relationship. So does anybody have any experiences that they'd like to share about how they helped a member transition to the point where you are now their trusted advisor?
This is Matt. I would say, for me, what I've learned over doing this over the years is that there's a moment in time where you take the chance to really give them the truth. As difficult as that might be, because everybody can shoot the messenger, and you have to have a level of confidence that it won't torpedo the relationship. And you put it out there, because it might be something in their management style that they've got to change. It may be an attitude they've got to address. It may be a financial circumstance that if they continue on this road, they're going to go bankrupt. And, it can be very, I've lost members doing this, and I've lost members, I think, doing it before they could really handle what I call the truth, unvarnished truth. Now, we may think we're all there to do that, but when you start a relationship with a new member, before you've built up rapport and that friendship and you give some unvarnished truth, I think that could cause you to lose at least my experience has been, lose a member. So you have to pick the timing well. I might do it too when I get to a point where in the relationship they're kind of futzing around, the value's really not there because they're not listening and they're not taking an action that you need them to take, and you just stop them and give them some unvarnished truth and then let it lie. And those people who embrace it and see results from it, man, they will be members for a long time. That's what I found. One thing that I use.
Thanks, Matt. I think that is an outstanding point. Being able to gauge the relationship and understand when you have that permission to be able to just be honest and be truthful and direct. I couldn't agree more that once you get there and you take that step, it will result in one of two things, right? They'll either walk away because they don't want that, or right. You now have a very long-term committed member.
Yep.
Very good. I appreciate that. That is some great insight. Anybody else? What have you done to kind of help your members move you out of the business relationship to trusted advisor role in their lives? I know you've all done it, so.
Yeah, this is Bernd. One thing I'm trying to is at some point in time meeting my members outside of their own professional setting. Take them out for lunch, for those who are into a golf game, go out there and play a round of golf, these sort of things, and really see how they conduct themselves outside of the business. Of course, most of the time the talk is around business, but just a different atmosphere, different setting makes the difference in how they start talking, and that's what I realized, that how they start talk to me and what they're talking about. They open up there a little bit further. So I've seen that being very helpful in the past.
Thanks, Bernd. I think that is another great chat for making that transition.
Hi, it's Jim Hadley. One of the things that I've found has worked pretty well is encouraging them to be in contact with you beyond the board meeting and beyond the coaching session. And so, if they've got something that's on their mind about their business, and you can kind of train them to call you, talk about it first before they make any decisions, that goes a long way. And I had a member call me up on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning because he had something on his mind. We spent about 45 minutes talking through it. He didn't get charged for that. I just kind of built it into what he normally does. And, that went a huge long way to getting him to kind of really lock into the fact that, yeah, you're in this with me. You're not just somebody that's there to take my money once a month and invite me to 2 meetings. You're really in this with me type scenario. So I know it's extending your time a little bit, but it does go a long way to getting them to move over and become treating you as a trusted advisor.
Jim, I think that's very true. I think as soon as you see them starting to call you with key decisions, you've made that transition. Prior to that, you're I say this with air quotes, you're just a business coach, right? And we all know the difference. So, making yourself as available as possible is good. The only thing I would caution is you don't want to make yourself too available, right? Because you're busy, you have limited time, limited resources. You don't want to be constantly on call at any time, and give the impression that they're the only one that you're servicing. But as much as possible, making yourself available, I think, is absolutely critical to transitioning to trusted advisor. By the way, Jim, I got a quick question. Does that mean you always give them the answer?
No, it's to help them. It's really more asking them a lot of questions to help them work through to develop the answer on their own. I very seldom tell them what to do. Excellent.
I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah, Ben, if you hadn't asked that question, I was going to ask that exact question. And then I had a similar situation occur where I was providing, the standard for me. It's a coaching only situation. So I was providing the coaching only, and then the business owner was sending a couple of emails, a couple of texts. And then it just started getting more and more and more. And I finally got to the point where I wasn't able to respond at a reasonable rate. I mean, it seemed like she would be, she read my mind and knew I was just about to go do something, and then would send me a text or an email. So what I ended up doing was saying, hey, look, let's pick a day of the week that's commensurate with the date that we meet for the coaching session. And in this case, it's Tuesdays at 10 o'clock. And so I gave her an out. I gave her a time that she knew that she could spend time with me for that time. Ultimately, I raised her rate accordingly after, and I even asked permission. I said, look, do you feel that by doing this, I was able to respond to your needs? And She said yes. I said, so I feel that we should probably go ahead and memorialize this. Let's add a couple bucks to the monthly and just make this part of our deal. and she was glad. She even said, "Is that enough?" Yeah, that's one of those quandaries. But I said, "Yes, that's enough." And then I said, "But we can always talk about it later." The other thing is that it did reduce it made me feel like I was able to provide more salient and directed attention to her on those days. I still get a text every now and then if it's an emergency or something, but same thing. And then, of course, a lot of it is, well, what would you do in this situation? How do you want to handle it? And then just walk her through the steps.
Thanks for adding to that, Mike. I agree with you, and I think there is an appropriate time to make sure that we're not just always giving away our services, and I think you highlighted that very well. Any other thoughts or any other experiences that anyone on the call would like to share about how you've helped a member transition you to the trusted advisor role? All right, very good. Well, thank you for sharing your experiences. I think all of what we've talked about are absolutely critical pieces of becoming a trusted advisor, being truthful and direct at the right time with your members and helping them recognize that your value to them is actually in making them very uncomfortable, that nothing's really going to change until they become uncomfortable, and knowing when and how to ask those questions is critical. Meeting and getting to know your members outside of their professional world helps you to become somebody different to them. If you only meet them in a certain environment and a certain time in a certain way, then that's who you are and that's who you become to them. If you can expand that into a different setting, in a more casual environment where it's more personal, I think that is absolutely critical to becoming a trusted advisor. And then, making yourself as available to your members to help them with key decisions and strategic transitions in their own business or in their own life is really valuable to them. And maybe that's one of the ways that you help to limit that, is if they're asking a lot of trivial questions at some point, coming back with the truth and saying, how to make that decision. But at the same time, being available when they really do have something that they need to work through. And to Jim's point, it's not your job to tell them what to do. That's a consultant. It's your job to know how to ask the right questions so that they can discover what the right solution is for them. That's a coach. All right, great discussion. Thanks for sharing. The next thing we want to work through, this is the second kind of topical task that we've had to work through, and that's around marketing and referral strategies. We've gone through several of these, and this week we're going to focus on the 90-day plan ask, which is specifically tied to referrals and testimonials. And I want to just kind of describe what we mean by that before we get into the discussion. So what we're looking for is, with your members, whether they're new or existing, is we're trying to establish a big win, either in the first 90 days if it's a new member, or in the next 90 days for a current member. So if they're taking on something, or they've set a key goal for them and their business, supposed to be accomplished in the next 90 days, we're going to walk with them through that journey, helping them to define it, helping them, holding them accountable to doing what they need to do. And the idea is that at the end of that 90-day period, they're going to have a big win. And we want to leverage that to help us in our business and to help the member recognize and see the value that we've brought to them. So we want to set the expectation early with the member as they start to take on these bigger, higher level goals, that, when we get there, I'm going to ask you for a testimony. I'm going to ask you to share your experience about this journey. So I just want you to be thinking about that, because we're going to succeed. And when we do, I want us to be able to reflect on what the process was. So we make sure that the member knows what we're doing, that we're not just trying to, elicit something from them, unexpectedly, but we really want them to know that we're being intentional with what we're doing as well. And then at the end of that 90 days, as you begin to celebrate, the first thing you do is you ask them for a referral. You've just accomplished a major goal for you and your business. Do you know anybody else in your circle, in your life, in your business world that is struggling to accomplish a major goal or to move their business forward? If so, I'd love to talk to them so that they can have the same experience you just had. So asking your members right after a key victory is absolutely a great way for them to instantly connect in their mind other people that they know that could that they would like to see become successful. And then you simply ask for a testimonial. I would encourage you all to start asking for video testimonials as much as possible. They're very, very powerful. And they're easy to put on social media. They're easy to put on web pages and things like that. They're easy to share, and we connect with somebody who's speaking to us far more than we connect when we're reading what somebody said. So if you can get video testimonials, that's the preferred strategy. If you can only get them written, that's fine as well. But ask them to just share their journey. And it might be a little bit of an interview format where I'm going to ask you a few questions about what we just went through the last 90 days or leading up to this big victory. I'm going to ask you what the journey was like. I'm going to ask you how you felt through it. I'm going to ask you about challenges that you've overcome. And I just want you to talk through your experience. And then, with their permission, you use that as a way to demonstrate your value to future prospects. So that's really the strategy behind the 90-day plan ask for getting better referrals and better testimonials. My first question would be, has anybody done anything like this? Not necessarily in this structured of a format, but have you leveraged big wins from your members to help you build a referral or a testimonial base for your business? And maybe instead of asking that closed-ended question, I should say, if you've done that, can you please share your experience with
I was going to do that anyway, so thanks, Ben.
Hey, Mike, I'm only getting about every third syllable. I haven't been able to capture anything that you've said so far. I don't know if it's me or if it's you, but I'm not hearing anything.
It's you.
It's me, Ben? You all can hear him?
No, I'm only catching every third too.
Okay.
Got the cell phone stutter.
I was getting worried there. I don't know, Mike, if you can get to a better place or if you're just having some internet issues or something, but we'll come back to you. How about that? Does anybody else have any experiences where they've been able to tag on to a great accomplishment of one of your members to leverage referrals or testimonial? Do you want to try again, Mike?
How about now?
That is much better.
Okay. I went with the headset, so you know what I look like. I look like Mickey Mouse.
Are you still talking? I guess not. All right, so we'll continue to give Mike an opportunity as we go through this, but the fact that I'm not hearing any experiences tells me that not a lot of you have done this. Is this something that you see?
I'm back.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Mike.
It actually kicked me off. That was rude. So in a previous life, what we used to do what are called case histories or case studies. And the reason I brought that up is because it actually would make it easier for a business owner that may not be excited about being on a camera. If you've already done the case history, background, problem ID, solution, blah, blah, blah. If you do that, they basically can see what it is that you guys are going to be talking about. So it actually, if we put in between, ask for the referral, write up a case history, ask for the testimonial, that actually may be a step in between that would help them get to the next level. But if nothing else, at least you have some collateral that you can use moving forward if they agree to it.
Yeah, I think that's good feedback, Mike. And I think that's part of setting the expectation with members up front, that you're always going to be doing this. You're always going to be looking for opportunities to leverage or to capture, their big wins. And so, through coaching notes or whatever mechanism you have to keep track of what's going on, consolidating that into a case study or something similar, and then letting the member review that and provide their testimony, I think is very beneficial. That's good. Thanks. So anybody else, if you haven't done this, is this something that, I just want to hear what your thoughts are around this kind of a strategy. Does it feel like something that you could do, or is this, not something that you think would be beneficial?
Ben, this is Rick.
Yeah, Rick.
I definitely think it's beneficial, and I have done it once with a client or a member that I've had for almost exactly a year. Her first, 10 months of working together, we got her team completely switched around, and I ended up working with every one of her team members, and she got some big praise and feedback from her superiors, and got a pretty huge raise and a nice bonus. And so she sent me a text the first of the year saying that how much greater it was starting off this year than last calendar year was. And so my response to her was, when next coaching session, I talked to her about giving a testimonial, and she did. But I did not do it with a video, so I didn't even think of it.
No problem.
Good idea.
Yeah. Just think about how we respond, in our own lives to video versus reading something. I mean, we can create the emotion in our minds, but seeing somebody, we're able to connect with that in a different level. So having a testimonial that's written is better than not having anything. Having a video testimonial is better than having a written. So, but yeah, thanks for sharing, and I think that is great, especially after seeing that kind of result with a client. She got praise, she got a raise, she got a bonus, things are better, her team's happier. Ideal time to capture referrals and testimonials from that particular member. Any other experiences or any other ways that you could see yourself using this strategy? If any of you are challenged with asking for referrals or have any hesitation about asking for referrals, I think this is absolutely critical for you to be able to be confident when you make that request. Being able to leverage what has been accomplished with your members and connecting that forward for them is a great way to help them see who in their lives might benefit from your services. The other value here is really a retention value, and that is by capturing these case studies, as Mike referred to them, and getting your members to provide testimonial or outcome kind of statements about what they just went through. When it comes up time for them to renew, or they're thinking about, possibly leaving tab, or that, membership has run its course, you can quickly go back and remind them of all that they've accomplished and how much of that did you expect when we first started, and look at how much further we've gone than you expected. And if you leave now, what aren't you going to be able to accomplish that we would be able to work through together? It just provides you more ammunition, more evidence to help members make that decision to stick with you longer term. All right, for some reason you all are very quiet today, so I'm not going to belabor the point. We've currently covered these 4 marketing and referral strategies. We've talked about guest advisors. We've talked about LinkedIn with member connections. We've talked about the board meeting ask. We've talked about the 90-day plan ask, and next time we will talk about strategic partnerships. I know many of you are already doing strategic partnerships. I know some of you are finding challenges with that. So it should be a great discussion, and since you know we'll be talking about it in the near future, you can start to plan the stories or the experiences that you'd like to share to help your fellow TBOs, or questions that you need to ask to get the help that you need from those that have gone down the road before you. All right, so now we're going to come to the round robin discussion question. This is becoming one of my favorite parts of our discussions. I'm learning a lot about you. We're getting some great feedback. We're being able to really understand, I think, more where we're all at, and that we have a lot of shared feelings and shared experiences, and that we're all kind of in this together. So what I would like to do is go around the room and have each of you complete this sentence. The most valuable lesson I have learned since becoming a TBO is, and we'll kick it off with Jim Hadley. Are you there, Jim? Maybe not. Maybe he had to drop, or maybe he got dropped. All right, so we'll go to Valerie. Are you on, Valerie?
Yes, I am here.
So what is the most valuable lesson you've learned?
Probably the most valuable thing I've learned is that I can look really smart asking questions.
I love that. I was actually just having a discussion about this, and one of the points that came out was that members tend to, the better questions you ask, or the more questions you ask that help them to find their answer, the more the member believes that you already own that information, that you're already an expert. Even if you have no experience in something, but you're asking great questions, they project you into that expert role just because of the questions that you're asking. So I think that is a brilliant statement, Valerie. I think you can look incredibly smart by asking the right questions. Steve, what's your lesson?
Don't judge.
Very good. How about Rick?
Challenge to get off mute. I'm back. When I saw this, I think the first thing that jumped into my mind was that although I don't always feel like internally that I'm an expert, I know a whole lot more than I realize when people ask questions, and I ask questions, and we both learn together what the best approach is. So it's real eye-opening, or it's been eye-opening for me.
Very good.
So the biggest thing that you've learned is how smart you are?
Well, Valerie, I was trying to be diplomatic about it, but I guess you called me out. Oh well.
I actually think that's a really good learning, because I think we underestimate more often than not the value that we can bring to our members, and I think we sabotage ourselves sometimes when we don't realize all that we do know, all the experiences we have had, all of the ways that what we've done through our lives could translate into a meaningful learning opportunity for our members. So I really like that. I think it's a statement of confidence. And I suspect, Rick, that if I had asked you the same question about 3 months ago, you probably would have had a different answer.
You are correct, and did a much better describing it than tooting my own horn.
How about you, Mike? What's your response? Mike Grover.
My most valuable lesson is the fact that I can always improve, because I'm not as good as I thought I might have been prior to doing this. So it was humbling, eye-opening, and very, very beneficial.
Yeah, and I think the humility piece to what you said is so critical. staying humble throughout. How about you, Bernd? What have you learned?
That other TBOs are really good at stealing my thunder. I was about to say exactly the same that Rick just said. So it's about having the confidence that my skill set and my past experience is really helpful to these guys. Typically when you walk in, you're entering their universe and you're kind of thinking they know everything about their business, but it becomes clearer and clearer that they don't. And they actually need an outside view, helping them to raise from the 5,000 feet level to the 50,000 feet level. And this is where all our skill sets are coming in. I'm pretty sure we are really good at that. Some are better in selling it, but having this sort of perspective is invaluable for them, and that's essentially what we're trying to convey, obviously, to our prospects, saying you need to get this perspective, and us coming from the outside, we have that.
Yep, absolutely. Very good. How about you, Matt?
When I originally thought about this, when you asked it, I thought being a very good active listener. But really, as I thought about that, what I've learned is that's not enough. And so what I would say is being very perceptive. And if I elaborate a little bit on that, what I mean is that being perceptive in terms of cues when a member may be getting ready to leave, being very perceptive that there's something more going on than what they're telling you. Just it's picking up on little cues of stuff. And so if your gut tells you, hey, something's wrong here, something's going on, then it probably is. You need to get to the bottom of it. So I would say becoming very perceptive.
Yeah, I really like that. There's always more to the story. Even with our most transparent, the members that trust us the most, there's always more to the story. And I think we need to recognize that. But being perceptive to see when there's more relevant information to this story that I need to know to really be able to help in this with this problem is so important. Very good.
I'm sorry. Who was that?
That was Matt Walsh.
Thank you.
I think that's everybody that I've got on the call. Is there anybody on that I'm not aware of? Okay, that's what I thought. Very good. Well, thank you all for sharing. Couple of key takeaways. We're smarter than we think we are. We're smarter than we give ourselves credit for being. But it's really important to stay humble and recognize that we don't have all the answers, and that we're better if we're asking great questions than if we're trying to tell people how smart we are. But we do need to have the confidence to lead our members and to recognize that they are looking at us to lead them. Don't judge. Ask great questions and look for what is not being said. Be perceptive. Listen, of course, but be perceptive and look for those cues and clues that are telling you that there's more that needs to be uncovered or discussed than what's being shared. Very good. How many of you feel like if you could have known some of these things as you were coming in or earlier in your business, it would have benefited you? And as you move forward and there are moments where you're challenged or you're feeling discouraged or you're not sure, reflect back on these things and recognize that you have come a long way from wherever you were when you started your tab business or in the most recent journey or challenge that you've overcome. I think it's really important for us, much like we talked about with our members, to keep a catalog of those victories that we've had, those challenges that we've overcome, those obstacles that we've been able to work over, and remember the victories that we've had along the way. It's much easier to remember our struggles than it is to remember our victories. All right, so miraculously, this is the first time in a few weeks we have time for open discussion. So if there are any other ideas, topics, questions, anything that you would like to discuss with your fellow TBOs for the last 10 minutes of the call, we actually have time to do that. So I'll open the floor up. This can be absolutely anything that you would like to share or that you would like feedback on or whatever you'd like to contribute. So I'll open it up to the floor. All right. Well,
I do have an issue.
good.
I would like to know from the other participants how much extra time they give clients, how much time they spend preparing for coaching, and at what point, if ever, do they tell the client that they need to start charging extra for the assistance that the member is asking them for?
I think that's a great question, Valerie. Very relevant, especially in light of some of our conversation today. So, how much extra time are you willing to give your members, and how much time do you? I heard three things. How much time do you spend preparing for coaching, and at what point do you have a discussion with them that there might need to be an increase in rate or dues?
I'll jump in just real quick, just kind of reiterating what I said. To me, it was a discovery that we were spending a lot of extra time together, and what I specifically said was, hey, if we need to add more time, I'm more than willing to do that, or we could just capture this stuff in our normal meeting. I let the client tell me what she wanted to do as opposed to telling her what to do, and that was the conversation. So it was a conversation, and at the end of that conversation, she was telling me she wanted to add more. Just a little caveat, I also said to her, and if we get to the point where you feel that we don't need to spend that much time, just let me know and we'll back it down again. So I'm willing to go both directions. I think that might be an important conversation to have. So it's not like you're going to have her at the higher rate forever, just hoping that she doesn't realize that she doesn't need all that extra time. It might be a good thing to have in your head when you're having that discussion.
Good, Mike. Thank you for that. Anybody else? How much time do you give? How much time do you take to prepare for coaching? And at what point do you discuss increasing dues?
Okay, so this is Matt. How much time do I give? Well, when I sign everybody up, I set an expectation as to what it's for, and I stick to that. So I'm very diligent on that in the way I structure meetings. So I'll have a coffee shop here where it's kind of a social gathering where I meet with most of my clients. So they come and meet at me. I don't have an outside office that I use, but I'll stack up the meetings one right after the other. So then at an hour, let's say, here comes the next person and they can kind of see each other, shake hands, whatever. And so that helps on the deadline. What was the second part of it?
How much time to prepare for coaching?
I don't take any time to prepare for coaching. I take copious notes, kind of like Ben does, except in my own way, that they get a copy of. It's the best tool I've ever found with Tab. It's just a really simple coaching document where you take notes, make commitments, and I write it. It's carbon copied. I give them a copy. I have a copy, and I refer to that at the next coaching session. And it's very laid out, so the follow-up is very easy. And then the last one is increase in dues. I wasn't sure if the question, Valerie, was additional coaching or increasing dues over time. So I wasn't clear, like additional consulting maybe or something like that, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, additional consulting and or additional coaching time, not increasing.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
Of existing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So that really comes out in terms of how much work there is to be done and how much you have open. I don't provide them for myself. I haven't with some sort of rate sheet or something on additional, but they'll ask me if they're interested. Say, hey, I'd really like some more time on that. Yeah, sure. What's your schedule look like next week or 2 weeks from now? And get on schedule with them and set up another time because our time is done here. But if they need more, they can do that. And I've never had an issue just billing them for that. Now, if it goes on and they're going to need more time on an ongoing basis, then you can look at that too. And hey, I think we're really getting a lot of stuff done here, but it seems like we're always cut short. Maybe we should go to 2 hours, and that would be at this rate. And I have never had a problem with that. It just seems like as a consequence that, oh yeah, sure, natural. Yes.
And then I think that's a great distinction. There's really two pieces to that, right? Is this a one-time thing where I'm just going to be helping you with this particular issue and you just do this month, or is this going to be something that you're going to want to do long term?
Yeah, that's right.
Great. Any other feedback? I appreciate the thorough answer. I think you made several very good points.
Yeah, this is Bernd. Almost all of my coaching sessions run a little bit longer. I don't mind 15 minutes. If it goes beyond that, I'll make it pretty clear that we either going to have a fairly hard break at that moment, or we got to talk about additional cost involved. But with regards to the preparation, I actually have what I personally call a journal for each one of my members. And it's essentially a little Excel spreadsheet which I fill in after each coaching session and after each board meeting for each member. Bullet points, something like this. And I've agreed with all of my members that these journals, I take the notes. So it all started out with my personal note-taking here for my own information. But I've come to discuss it with my members over time, and they said they would be interested in looking into this. So I said, yeah, I mean, it's written in a neutral way, obviously. I make it available to them. I've even taken it to the next level and established a Google Drive, which I share with all of my members, and their journals are on there. Again, that's all been agreed between all of us. So if they want to go back and see what's been discussed five months ago in one of the coaching sessions or in one of the board meetings, they see it actually there. Now, how often do they go in there? I don't know that. But they have access to the shared drive. And this journal is actually my document I'm using for preparation. I take the sheet from the last board meeting or from the last coaching session. I'll take it with me. And we know exactly what we want to discuss then.
Very good. And I think you all know that I'd probably share some of Bernd's approach because I keep basically a journal for each one of you, every one of our coaching sessions. And I will tell you, Valerie, I do that because to Matt's point earlier, I actually do almost no prep before each coaching session. What I do is I pull forward notes from our last session into the notes for this session, and that allows me to reconnect with what we've been talking about for the most part. I might miss a detail here and there, but generally speaking, I think that enables me to stay pretty on top of what we've discussed and where we're really focusing. And I think the value for me of the note-taking is not for the member or for the client, but it's for me to be able to keep things orderly and easy to reflect on. You've probably all experienced times when I'm flipping back through notes to see what we've talked about before, or to remind myself of a key issue that we mentioned a few months ago or a few weeks ago. So that's how I use the notes. I do send them to you all, but to be completely blunt, the notes are for me more than they're for you. I just give them to you so that you can see what I captured. But it's my only way of keeping things in order. And by doing that during the session, I actually eliminate a majority of the prep time that I would have before a coaching session. And you all are about to get a dues increase, so I'm kidding.
Nice.
So any other thoughts for Valerie? Did that help, Valerie?
So.
So. Okay. Did you have a follow-up or something that we missed that you'd like to re-ask?
No, thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, we are just about at the top of the hour, so I will go ahead and wrap up this session of our program group coaching call. I do appreciate you all participating and sharing your experiences and making this a more meaningful time. I will make the recording available not only to you but also to those that weren't able to attend. And if you need anything from this, you can go back to the recording, and otherwise we'll all connect at our next coaching call. Remember that we do have an owner-to-owner sprint call scheduled for this afternoon that begins at 3 p.m. Eastern Time or noon Pacific. If you're able to attend, that would be awesome. If not, I'll touch base with you all at some point in the very near future.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ben.